Subscribe or you'll be visited by the toll troll. Brr, it is cold outside. We appreciate our associates for braving through the cold to be here. Stay warm with some ramen noodle soup and crackers. We couldn't have done it without y'all. I can't thank y'all enough. God bless those smiles. What's your worst Wagie story, Anon? Worst one? Met my ex at my work, Wagie IT Corp. Bang like rabbits. She falls in love, I treat her like a slam pig. Switch jobs, she stays there. Develop a pregnancy fetish, she is 5 feet 4 inches, big tits, slim. This goes on for over a year, I drop her permanently, only bang once a while. She has a boyfriend, then a fiancé, then a husband. Keep occasionally banging when he's out of town. She never lets go of the breeding fetish, mentions they're trying for a baby, but she wants it to be mine. Bust my nut 10 times deep inside of her. That weekend she actually gets pregnant, no idea if it's mine, but 95% chances it is. I cut her off completely after finding out and switch jobs again, but move states this time. The husband never found out, they have a second one on the way now. The world is heckin' crazy. I'm still alone and will never trust a woman, but she was fun as all heck, I gotta admit. I literally got 2 Filipina coworkers pregnant at the same time and literally had to pay them $2,000 each to keep quiet, get an abortion and not tell my wife. That was 20 years ago, it really bothers me now that they would have had my kids and they'd be in college by now. I've only worked from home. I was a salaried employee making $55,000 a year. I was typically billing 35 to 40 hours a week to clients, which meant I was working 60. I found out after I left that my bill rate was $250 an hour. My company was bringing in around $450,000 a year for my work and paying me $55. It wasn't complicated work either, installing and configuring applications based on a spec sheet. Capitalism in a nutshell. Spraying pesticides in tomato greenhouses. I lost so much weight from sweating in the hot as balls Tyvek suits. It was shite. Here's a true story from when I was a Wagie cashier like 10 years ago. Be me. Working as cashier at local small grocery store. Regular customer who comes every week comes to my register. Start scanning his items and making small talk. Start to smell poop. The guy swipes his card, looks down and goes, "Ah geez dude, sorry my bad." Look down and there is just a pile of liquid poop on the ground. Look at customer and say, "Oh man. No worries. Have a good day man." As he walks out, a trail of liquid poop with the consistency of hamburger helper is falling out of his pants. Call the poor Wagie bagger and smile as he cleans it up. The guy who pooped didn't show his face at that store for an entire week. I got jerked off at work at McDonald's one time. Under stall action M4M. Wagie. Not a Wagie, but I've looked for a longer than I had it, being dependent on my mother with whom I have a terrible relationship. This is worse than being a Wagie. I used to work at GameStop after I left school. I'm 33 now. I met my wife there when I was like 21 and we banged in the stock room on top of a pile of Xbox 360's kek. We both have corporate jobs now and have a combined income of over $300K. When I worked for Taco Bell, some kids loved destroying that bathrooms. One day one took a poop in the urinal. Not a small one either. It was like a foot long with a huge girth. The manager gave me gloves and told me to clean it out. I cried the entire time. When I was 17, my first job was at a grocery store near my parents' house. Some old boomer retiree customer really liked me. Like basically was a gay pedo towards me. He would always come in and tell me these long 10+ minute stories about his family or about how his wife had passed away and how he was alone. He constantly offered to come back to the store when it was closing time to walk me home, even though I only lived like 5 to 10 minutes away. One time he found out where I lived, even though I never ever told him. And he came to my house with a Christmas card and it had $200 inside it. He told me that he was thinking of me non-stop. Not even a girl had ever told me that, let alone some old man. My dad saw what happened and he got mad about it. I told him I didn't know how he found out where I lived and that I really didn't like him and he was basically stalking me, but he didn't believe me and made me quit working there. Thanks for reading my blog. I never had a job because I'm stupid. I once had a job where I was bent over hand tying reinforcing steel mesh for a massive industrial floor slab 40 hours per week non-stop for months. One night about halfway through the job I came home and slashed my wrists up in the bath but was sadly unsuccessful. I wish it was cold. Do you have any idea what it's like to have to do crap in a tropical country summer? Your energy gets sapped from you and everything feels sluggish. With cold, you have nature slapping you in the face to keep you woken up. I worked my ace off my entire life and attended a top 15 university only to graduate in 2010 and get a frig $30K per year job. My boss pressured me to carpool with him and I heckin' hated him. Today he's the only person in my entire life that I hate. I also spite and curse my parents for not giving me a backbone to walk away from such a screwed existence. I was so pathetic, and I would beat my own ace if I could go back in time for being such a loser. If you're miserable and want to kill yourself, stand up for yourself and just leave. Don't be a desperate loser like I was. This is my TEDx talk. I remember being 16 in the 90s and had just quit working at a record store called Sam Goody's because the manager would promise to let me go home early if I skipped lunch, but then never followed through. So one day I quit and go apply for a job at a local Taco Bell, which paid $4.35 per hour. I get the job and am asked to come in on orientation day so they can show us around and give us a shirt and hat. I show up and they do the standard orientation explaining the job and how things work. Then we get near the end of the orientation to very most rear of the kitchen, and there was this giant sign on the back door that said "Do not open after dark." I asked the manager why we can't open that door after dark, and he said because joggers and Pedros hang out behind that door for someone to open it to take trash out at night and rob the place. It had already happened several times. I thanked him for the explanation and walked out of the store with my hat and shirt and never returned. Thankfully I was into computers and later at 19 got an internship which turned into a full-time career. My first job was one of those sign-waving gigs I did part-time in high school. Looking back, it was pretty fun. The things randos would talk to you about back then were pretty funny. No way I'd recommend that job to anyone today. Too many psychos are roaming the streets now. Currently work at a unicorn startup as an L6. The code is ancient PHP 4.0 garbage written in the late 90s, and the system is overly complex to the point that these guys are bleeding money like crazy. For every single bug fix or feature you spend countless days digging through JIT tier code and there's zero documentation. On top of that, there's incidents every other day and no room for career growth. Kill me. When I worked in a bakery and a grocery store chain, customers that would be pestering me for the freshest bread out of the freezer, I would go grab them a baguette and fart on it bare ace. Never got caught either. It was a place only rich liberals shopped at, so I don't feel bad. Boss locked me inside a superstore overnight, but no pick related inside. In high school I worked at McDonald's. I've seen multiple grown men cry because they had to wait 3 to 4 minutes to order. Be me. Work 40 hours at place for 2 years. Considered part-time, no benefits. Asked to be made full-time. There's no full-time positions available at this time, but you can go over here and do this full-time. Enjoy current job, so decline. Fast forward 2 months, full-time position in my job available. Assume it's mine. They give it to a new guy that took the job. I was offered 2 months back. Have to train the new guy in my job. He gets paid more than me plus benefits. Complain. They offer me new guy's old job again. He left 3 months later. Middle of the 2000 years, I had a gig as a parking lot guard for a festival. Basically 2 hours of waving and then 6 hours waiting. The lot was just part of a bigger ranch. So me and the other fella decide to talk a nap in the shadow of a maple tree and ride home later. The next day I wake up and every part of my body is itching and red. Still go to work. My mate looked the same. Some tiny grass lice were the culprit. I've been yelled at nonstop by some joggeress, threatened to get beat up by some fat boomer, and worst of all been paid less than minimum wage. Unsurprisingly, these were all jobs I had as a kid, and looking back it doesn't seem as a surprise to me that those places only hired teens. Worked in a pharma company where about 90% of everyone employed has no idea what they were doing. Meet a QT. Bang in my car after work. Bang in sample fridge. Bang everywhere. Asks me to leave my girlfriend and she dumps her boyfriend of 8 years. I get cold feet and we have big fight. She gets a new job. I feel sadness but relieved. We bang off and on. Couple of years later I break up with my girlfriend. Ask the girl to marry me. Too late, they bought a house together. Get a new girlfriend, she's great but I still long for my old work friend 6 years on. Probably the best / worst / happiest / sadness time of my life. Be me in 2005. Graduated college, waiting to ship for the military. Get crappy temp jobs though in agency, but it's low stress because I have a plan. Tell the temp agency I don't work weekends. I made this a hard point, as I was about to ship and have to work weekends for the foreseeable future. Get assigned to one job on a Friday, work hard, do a good job. Show up on Monday and they took my badge, all upset I didn't show up on Saturday or Sunday. Tell them the agency should have informed them I only work weekdays. Nope, out of there. Another temp job in a warehouse restocking the pick line. Really bored most of the time with nothing to do as we hustled for 2 hours and had 6 hours left on the shift to be bored. Started drawing all over the recycling boxes with a Sharpie to pass the time. Boss gets super pissed I'm drawing on the recycling his boxes and fires me whatever, frig those places. When I was like 17 I worked at a fur company and would scrape muskrats, deer hides, etc. The place smelled like death, literally. They had a 55-gallon drum of guts. Job like that will put hair on your nuts. In high school I worked at a grocery store. Was late and almost closing time and I could leave. An old fart came in the last minute, took 40 minutes to shop and wanted assistance taking groceries into the car. When they turned on their old crappy car, the exhaust blew black smoke all over my tan pants. Was furious at the time, but decided I was never going to work customer service again. I used to operate a pirate ship at an amusement park, as a 15 years old, and I had a kid break his leg because the little regard kept putting their leg out of the machine. Also, there was no one to help me when it happened. Had to search for my boss for like 15 minutes to call an ambulance. I work at a bakery in a grocery store. I get asked questions I either don't know the answer to or the same stupid heckin' question over and over and over again. I have to write on cakes for people, which heckin' annoys me. People ask where stuff is in the store, I don't care to remember where anything is. I heckin' hate it here. People take pictures of me and stuff while working. Frig you dumb C word. All the women make me do extra effing shite, just frig off you dumb rich biatch. I hate all the customers that come in here. Frig off and die. I don't know how much more I can take. All I can manage to do when I get off is smoke weed to cope with this shite never-ending hell. I need to find another job soon. No one specific story sticks out, but the worst job I've ever worked was as a debt collector in a call center. I'm surprised call centers aren't mentioned more in these threads. It's probably the worst possible full-time job you can have in the first world. Do housekeeping for a hotel as a summer job in college. Cheapest hotel in town, run by alcoholic boomer lady. Only other worker is another slightly older, more aggressive boomer with severe memory issues. Turns out housekeeping means running the entire hotel, including managing bookings. Boomer boss uses 3 different unconnected apps to take bookings. Every day at least one room is double booked. My job becomes mostly dealing with angry customers. Boss never wants to refund in case of double bookings but tries to get them to stay at her villa for the same price. Villa is a rundown crap hole with wasp hives inside the house. No refunds. Eventually she fires me because I refused to put some tourists in a room with a toilet that was leaking sewage on the floor. The loss of revenue is coming out of pay non. By the way, you're fired. Christmas event. 500 employees. Somehow get pulled into game where the women rate the single men on stage. Earn points for each vote in some strange scoring system. Each guy given small whiteboards to write our scores on. The only guy to sit there with a big fat O on his board throughout the game. Utter humiliation ritual. Under the downlight on stage at the end, hold up my board with 0 on it, finish last of course. Confirmed to be absolutely unscrewable by every female there. Las Vegas bartender robbed at gunpoint was forced to repay boss's stolen money, lawsuit says. Edward Parker's employers docked him nearly $4,000 for the December 4, 2020, robbery, according to the suit. Wendy's worker shot in head by drive-through customer demanding extra barbecue sauce. 24 Amazon workers sent to hospital after robot accidentally unleashes bear spray. A robot punctured a can of bear spray. Now 24 Amazon workers are hospitalized. Panda Express staff forced to strip at team building seminar that seemed like a cult initiation ritual, lawsuit says. This just feel humiliating. My work makes new employees stand in front of everyone at their first staff meeting and sing and dance to the nursery rhyme I'm a Little Teapot. They started it after I was hired, but I've watched 3 batches of employees do it and it feels demeaning even though it's not happening to me. What purpose does this serve? People smile politely but no one is laughing except our facility manager, who I guess to be fair also does the dance each time with them in a false show of solidarity. Be me, 20, just got back from college after the dorms closed due to COVID. Decide to work at Kroger doing ClickList to pass the time. Pretty chill, nobody is in the store so you can screw around and listen to music while basically just shopping. Meet old guy, in his 50s, seems a little weird but has tons of cool stories about his travels. Stacy's tell me I should stay away from him. I don't because I figure they're just being bitches. Tells me about when he lived in Tunisia, got involved in some local gangs, speaks fluent French. Killed a man once. Sweet. Seems like I'm the only person he really talks to, always excited to see me. One day he comes in and seems crazier than usual. Non, are you F-15 or MiG? What? The F-15s were good, heroic, and always looked out for each other. MiGs are traitors. Don't be a MiG. Okay man. Find out later a bunch of people had tried to get the store manager to fire him. He yells at one of the cashiers that women shouldn't be on register because they might get assaulted. Gets fired. Never see him again. There's definitely more about this guy, I just don't remember anything else. Probably the time I got a gun pulled on me for delivering an Amazon package. Turns out the guy's wife ordered something, and wanted it delivered to the back. It's front door every time now. That way at least if I get shot, the van will record it.